Hello everybody and welcome again to another episode of Now What, where we discuss very interesting stories with very interesting people. And I don't think they get any more interesting than Annalese Walmsley. So without further ado, hello Annalese.
Hi, Angie.
So, you came on my radar, okay? Obviously through property, because I know you work for a company called Cooney.
Yep, that's the one.
Got that right. And I was listening to actually one of your podcasts that you did with the two Russells, which is when you really went into my sphere. And I remember running along the canal with my earpods in, crying, because your story is, and we're not here to talk about that, to be honest, because if you don't mind, I'd much rather that if anybody does want to find that part of the story out about you, then please look up the Two Russells podcasts, where you will hear and listen to Annalise's story, which is incredible. But there's more to you than that. And that's really the bit that I want to talk about with you, because I know that I use the word resilient quite a lot. And you are one of those, wow, you're one of the most resilient people I think I've probably ever had the honour to talk to. But there's been quite a lot of ups and downs in your life. And not only that, it's about, I know that you feel defined by certain things within your life. So if you don't mind, can we kick off with that? About the, if you bear with me a moment, when did you realise, because I know that responsibility is a big thing that runs through your core. When did you realise that you were the responsible one?
So I think without going into my childhood and my story, from a very young age, I was almost given a parental hat. So I was the oldest of 4 children. So I've got 2 sisters and a brother. And naturally, in most cases, as the oldest sibling, or the fabulous sister, as it says on my mug, you are given additional responsibility. That for me was sort of elevated based on the circumstances that I was brought up in and how I came to be a parent myself. And I'd always been like a second mum without being a mum for a very, very long time. So I'd parent my siblings, I'd cook, I'd clean, I would be the person that did the ironing in my house. So I took on a very maternal role from the age of about 12 or 13. So it was almost like there was no other route. I was always going to be quite a maternal, responsible person. That sort of weaved through into my adulthood. So I've started my life and my career as a nursery nurse, caring for children, which was, again, a natural transition for me. And I was always wanting to do and be more and be better with everything that I did. So I qualified quickly, is what I was going to say. But yeah, the nursery nurse stuff was, again, just a transference of responsibility of other people's children.
But I think you are quite a powerhouse, and I can use that word. And I know people cringe if people say that about me, and I'm sure you're cringing at this point. But I think that when does the, when you become the breadwinner, the feeling that you thought it was, did it empower you, or did that add pressure?
Huge amounts of pressure. I was chasing salaries for 10 years. It was always the next big salary, the next big job, the next shiny job title. And I found myself in a position where I'm at now, even now, where my income supports our family. My husband works, but his income is lower than mine because he's taken more of a backward step in his career to support my growth and career. But it's incredibly pressurized. You know, I'm always thinking, well, if I lose my job, if I'm ill, what do we do? Like, what do we do with the mortgage? What do we do with, you know, the bills and the outgoings? And it's a huge pressure.
I think that there are so many people that will be listening to this that feel that way. I've got a solicitor friend of mine who was actually quite poorly a few years ago, and he felt like that, and he said it was like a pressure cooker. And he said, I feel as though and if you put this into words and then we'll carry on, but I think it's sort of on the same line. He was saying to me, I feel as though I'm the bird. There's all these worms in, there's all these chicks in a nest. And I'm just that's all I do every day.
Yeah.
And I've just had it.
And you lose sight of looking after yourself, because you're constantly like, you can't be ill, you can't be off sick, you can't take just time off for yourself. Like everything I do is with that responsibility in mind of making sure that we've got a roof over our head, making sure we get the holidays, and the pressure, even though I'm not in an environment now where I should be worried about losing my job. I'm always worried about losing my job. I have this little gremlin that's like, well, what if that happens? Don't spend that money because you might need that. Like, I've had this like almost feast and famine, where as a child I grew up with nothing as well. Like, we had no money, my parents didn't work. So I was hungry and I wanted that. And that's what drove me to it. It was like defines happiness and success. And it doesn't. Like, it
There's
really
lots of
doesn't.
people who think that, Annalise, to be fair. Even now, people think that. So I'm going to ask you this. Did anyone ask you, or does anyone ask you? Because I know you're not in that, you're there, but you're not in as much of a, you're not in it as much as you were. Were you in that mindset? I know you're still there, but there's a pressure point. Did anyone ask you how you were coping?
I don't think ever, never, because I present as coping all the time, because I don't like to look like I'm not coping, because I feel like that shows an element of failure. I don't ever want people to think that I can't cope or I need support. So I'm always the person that's cheery, happy, smiley, confident. There's very, very rarely that you'll catch me being vulnerable or upset or stressed. I'm just like, everything's fine. But internally,
of course,
it's hard. It can be really hard.
So in terms of because that's great, right? That's great in a work life, but that can't be all the time.
It isn't all the time. It compounds over time.
Of course.
And you just have moments where my husband, well, sometimes I will just 1 to 100 and just completely collapse and be exhausted and cry, feel overwhelmed. But then the next morning I'll get up and everything will be fine. But it will be like little tiny things that happen, little micro stresses, something small that he'll do, and suddenly everything that's been weighing on my mind or the pressures that I'm feeling will just flood out. And it's exhausting, like physically exhausting, because you just feel like you're constantly, so it's that saying of like carrying a monkey on your shoulder. And it's adding to it every single time.
So if you were to give, I don't try and give advice, if I'm honest. I think that you shouldn't give advice. You can talk about life experiences and then people may recognise themselves in that story. So bear in mind that's your camera, and I'm putting you on the spot really. But if somebody's listening to this and feeling that pressure, what would you say?
I would say get counselling.
Okay.
Because
have you had counselling?
Yeah, I've had counselling.
Yeah.
I veered away from counselling for a long time because, again, I saw that as a look, I'm not coping and I'm having to tell somebody I'm not coping. But sometimes you need somebody who is far removed from your life, that isn't involved in your day-to-day, that it doesn't see you at work, that doesn't see you with your kids, where you can just be honest. And when someone says, how are you? You go, I'm not good. And even now saying that, I don't say that because I know that there are parts of me that are not good, but I don't find safety in talking about that with peers, because I don't want to appear to not have my shit together.
No, I get that.
That's the reality of it.
The reason I've asked you that, because I know it's quite emotional to ask, but the reason I asked that is because you don't know who's listening to your story, to this, who's feeling that pressure and has no one to go to. So, and that's why I asked you really.
And it's important because Gemma, who's my counsellor, there was one point where I have like a 45-minute session. That's what's booked in.
Yeah.
And then There was one time I was there for an hour and a half because she was just like, I couldn't stop you. You just needed to get everything out. And it doesn't just help you just to get it out. It helps you to verbalize your own thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think particularly as strong women, don't want to verbalize that we're not okay, that we're not happy in the job, or we're not happy with our partner, or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. We don't want to admit it. And sometimes saying it out loud is what you need. So finding somebody outside of your circle, or somebody in your circle if you feel that that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But somebody that's outside of that doesn't judge, doesn't have an opinion, and doesn't care if you say something that's shocking, because they're just there to listen. That's what
Yeah.
they're paid to do.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So, and it's true. I mean, everything you said, it's like hallelujah, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of so I'm sorry, I'm skipping all over the place as I normally do. So you were doing nursery nursing, you did all of that. And then because obviously at this point you've got a daughter.
Yeah.
And then, because you've got two gorgeous daughters.
I
So
do.
then is your husband the father of your daughter now?
My youngest daughter.
Of your youngest
yeah.
daughter, sorry, yeah. Because I know that you've been married twice before.
So he's my
Once
second
before,
husband.
sorry, second
yeah.
husband. So, but the first one's,
It was a damp squib.
yeah, that was a glip, I think. You know, only a few months, but that's fine. So I know that you've talked openly about your struggling to conceive.
Mhm.
So would you mind just sort of exploring that?
Yeah, so I had my first daughter quite young.
Yeah.
I was pregnant at 17. She was born when I was 18. So I know people say, oh, you don't look old enough. I'm like, I know, it's because I was a young mum. But I was born with a condition which is called a bicornuate uterus, which is basically where your uterus is separated into two halves, almost like a love heart. So you have a heart-shaped uterus that's got a bit of a split down the middle. And because of my childhood and things that had happened, the development of my uterus was basically stopped.
Yeah.
And I obviously had Megan, but before that I suffered with multiple miscarriages, from the age of 15, 16.
Yeah.
I had miscarriages. And then I had Megan, and I then had several miscarriages again after that. And then even with my first husband, whilst we were only together for a short period of time, I fell pregnant. I had a ectopic pregnancy with that pregnancy, and I lost my tube, so my fallopian tube, and that ruptured. So I ended up in hospital with a ruptured fallopian tube. And I kind of decided at that point that I probably wasn't going to have any more children. And I'd kind of almost accepted it. So I stopped taking any form of contraception. I haven't been on any form of contraception since I was 20. I always tell people that my body's like a natural contraceptive. But
I've got that, but from a different way.
Well, yeah, there are other reasons. But I think in my 20s, it was a little bit like, that's not the reason.
Yeah.
But my first ectopic pregnancy was extremely scary. I desperately wanted to have another child because my oldest daughter at the time wasn't living with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't have children at that time in my life. And with my first husband, I'd convinced myself so hard that this was going to be a successful pregnancy that I ended up putting my own life at risk. And I went to the hospital for multiple scans. I was bleeding constantly, but I refused to accept that this baby was not going to be a baby. And I remember going to this hospital for a scan because I had to go every other day. They were checking my blood levels. It was stressful. And I remember them saying, we're going to give you a scan, but just nip and grab a coffee and then come back and then we'll do your scan. I don't remember anything after that because my tube ruptured. I collapsed in the cafe at the hospital. The next thing I remember is waking up and them saying, we've had to remove the ovary, the fallopian tube, and obviously the baby that came with it. And that was horrendous. That was because I refused, and I put my own life at risk because I really, really wanted a baby. And again, this is that thing of not wanting to fail. I didn't want my body to fail again. And I was convinced that this was going to be a thing. I was going to be a mum again, and, I was going to have a baby with my husband. And it kind of knocked me for six, and I went off the rails a little bit after that, to be honest.
Understandably.
I was not a very nice person after that for a while. I'd almost punished myself.
Were you still working though?
I was working at Aviva at the time, so an insurance company, and partying very hard, cheating, wasn't a nice person, didn't punishing myself, but punishing everybody else around me as well. So yeah, my relationship with my then husband just deteriorated. You know, he wanted kids more than anything. I didn't think I was going to be able to give him children. So it was just like, look, I don't want to waste your time.
Yeah.
Let's just cut it off. And that's kind of how it ended. And then I met my now husband. And again, we just struggled to conceive. We just couldn't conceive. We went for tests. We went for morphology tests for him to check whether everything was fine with him. We even went to an IVF consultation where they told us it was a less than a 2% chance of me actually conceiving, let alone actually having a child. So it was like, well, why would we pay all this money for IVF?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're in a place in the UK where you don't get a free round. Some postcodes, you're almost like a lottery of like, if you live 10 miles down the road, you get access to free IVF.
I've heard that.
If you live where we do. I don't know whether it's different now, but we were like, it's like $5,000 just to give it a go.
Wow.
I was like, we can't afford that. At that time, I wasn't earning as much money. So we just thought, well, then it'll be what it'll be. And then I had a second ectopic pregnancy. And that one, thankfully, didn't end up rupturing. I had the foresight at that point to be like, let's deal with this, which was hard. But again, it was just like another way of my body just going, no, no, no. And you just kind of resign yourself to that and go, well, I'm not destined to be a mum again. Like, I had my shot. She was now living with us. But it was like, I'm never going to be able to have a baby born out of genuine love.
Yeah.
And whilst Megan is loved by me wholeheartedly, it wasn't a natural thing.
I get it.
So then when we got pregnant with Evelyn, was just like some sort of miracle.
Wow.
And the stress levels of that, I bled all the way through my pregnancy because of the condition I have.
Were you working as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked all the way through, right up until about a week before, I think. So pretty much, again, that pressure of being an income earner, I pushed my body to its absolute limits. And I didn't have to, but financially I had to, because I had to provide.
Yeah, of course.
And maternity pay is shocking. You know, I was in a startup business, didn't have an established maternity policy.
No.
It was 130 quid a week. And I was like, I can't survive off that. So I need to work as long as I can to save as much as I can so that we still are able to be comfortable when I'm off on maternity. But that pregnancy with Evelyn was riddled with hospital scans. I think we had about 10 scans with Evelyn during my pregnancy. So from her being a bean to kind of growing, we've got pictures all the way through, because I needed that. You need the comfort that she was okay, because every time I bled, I thought I was having a miscarriage, and it would be almost constant. And that was largely driven by the condition that I have. So one half of my uterus thinks it's pregnant and the other one doesn't.
How the hell did you conceive?
Yeah.
I mean, talk about miracle intervention, isn't it?
Yeah. And it was a really weird pregnancy as well, because I was only pregnant on one half of my stomach. If you laid down, you could see just her in that space, and there'd be nothing here. So it was a really bizarre pregnancy. It was very interesting for the doctors. Like, you could bring all the student nurses in, they'd be like, look at this. And I was like, yes, this is my body. But when she was born, that was it. I was like, I'd never want to have any more children. If I did, I did. As I say, I'm only on the coil now for medical reasons, because I suffer with endometriosis, and I've had ovarian masses and all sorts of different things happen. But I'm just like this gynecological nightmare. You know, every time I go in, they find something else that's wrong in there. And to be honest, last year when they found a lump on my uterus, it was about 10 centimeters big when they found a lump.
Wow.
Which was terrifying. And I got to the point where I was like, just take it all away.
Why haven't they given you a hysterectomy?
It's almost like they just don't.
They don't do it anymore, do they?
No. So they removed the lump, and the ovary still is there. It's called an oophorectomy, I think they call it. But they removed that. But again, it can be recurring because of endometriosis.
How old are you now?
37.
See, I had endometriosis and I managed to get 2 kids. I never really looked at it, didn't want to know what it was about. But I was on a waiting list to get my, to have the, start again, to have the,
Endoscopy.
or no, to have the whole lot of it
Oh, the
gone.
hysterectomy.
Yeah, but then they took, because they ask you, don't they, in the NHS, when have you got anything planned?
Yeah.
Don't know. So anyway, cut to, they said, oh, get you for this. I wasn't 40. We'll get you in for your hysterectomy. And I went, so endometriosis, have a growth on the fibroids on the ovary and on the bowel and blah, blah, blah. And they said to me, can you do this date? And I went, well, no, I'm on holiday the one time. So they said, right, you got to go to the bottom of the list. So in the end, I ended up paying.
Yeah.
But it was the best thing I ever did because I had everything, everything bar one ovary.
Yeah. Well, I actually found out I was pregnant with Evelyn a week before I was due to go for an endoscopy.
Good Lord.
Before I was about to go in to have my endometriosis treatment was when I
Which
found out.
never works, in my opinion.
It grows back. So
yeah, it grows
doesn't
back.
work. But that's when I found out I was pregnant with her, was just after I was due to go in and have an operation to check and deal with all of the issues that I was having, because I grew up with having periods every week, 2 weeks. It was like on, off, on, off, on, off.
You need to try, I'm not trying to, you need to try and get them, push for that.
Yeah.
Because I tell you now, the pain that you are in every day, because you will be, with endometriosis, it instantly goes.
Do you know what? It's been a hell of a lot better because I don't have any periods now. I've got the coil.
Right.
I have no bleeding. I have no periods. It genuinely changed my life just having the coil fitted out after I'd had the operation, which was not December gone, but the December before. Whilst it was awful having the operation and it was over Christmas and I couldn't move, it was horrendous. Once they'd fitted that, it was like I was a different person. Because I used to not be able to travel or go anywhere without carrying spare changes of clothing, without preparing for whether that might happen.
Yeah.
And there was one point it happened on a works night out and I had nothing with me. And I had to get a top, tie it around my waist and make a swift exit. But it started to materially affect my life.
Of course.
And that's when I went to the GP and that's when they found this lump and that's kind of how we ended up where we did. But on the pregnancy journey, people say don't give up. I gave up. I was like, we are not going to be able to have children. If I can conceive, it's getting stuck.
I get
it's getting stuck somewhere, or it's tucked away and hidden and they can't find it. And it was just like, you almost got your hopes built up every single time. I become obsessed with pregnancy tests. Every single month, 3-4 days before my period was due, I was doing pregnancy tests and I spent probably a small fortune on them.
Thing is, Annalese, there are so many people who are on it now who are doing that because it does become obsessive. And you cannot, everybody's different and you can't, how can you give advice to people? You can't. All you can do on that is just say you've got to do you can only do what you think you need to do.
Yeah.
But for you, by not concentrating on it in the end, by thinking it's not going to happen, it happened.
And I started taking a lot more vitamins and healthy stuff before I got pregnant with Evelyn. Not that I was very unhealthy or didn't eat well.
Yeah.
But for a boss of mine at the time, Claire, she was like, take these for energy and vitamins. And she's like this wizard when it's potions. And she was like, just take all these things, to help with your energy levels and your mood. And I genuinely believe that that's what helped me get pregnant.
Yeah.
But again, you don't think, vitamins are going to help you conceive. But it's that's why these prenatal vitamins, that's why they exist.
Yeah.
And during my pregnancy, I took them all religiously. And, she was here and she was a healthy baby. She was early via C-section. So I had 2 C-sections with both of my daughters because because of the way my uterus is, I can't give birth naturally. But we turned up at the hospitals. We were booked in 37 weeks to have the C-section. And I'd been up all night with an upset stomach. And I was like, I'm not feeling great. And my husband, Andy, just said, you're probably just nervous, you're going in for a big operation. It's probably nerves. And we turned up at the car park at the hospital. I stood up out of the car and my waters broke. So it was literally she is coming today, whether we like it or not, but great for us because we literally queue jumped at the hospital. It was I know I'm here for a C-section and it's kind of come as you are, but my waters have broken. So yeah, within an hour, we'd got from the car park into theatre. She was born, and I was
Fantastic.
home by the next day. So it's incredible. Like, but yeah, she was like, I'm arriving today. So
Fantastic. I presume that's what she's like in life.
she is.
Yeah,
You
of
know
course
when
she is.
Evelyn's arrived.
Yeah. So the challenge, I've wrote this down because how did struggling to conceive challenge the version of you who believes outcomes equals worth? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it did. I mean, I felt like a failure. I felt like my body can't do the thing that women should be able to do.
But you had done it.
I had done it, but it felt like a different
It's like you
person.
blanked that out, hadn't you, that
Yeah,
part?
it felt like a different person's
Yeah, I get that.
pregnancy. I
Yeah.
didn't feel, and because she didn't live with me, I almost didn't get to experience having a toddler,
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
all that sort of stuff. So it, worth-wise, with my first husband and the first ectopic, it just made me feel completely worthless. Like,
Because for somebody who's got that mindset that's ingrained in you, because that's what makes up you, that must have been,
it was horrible because I'd only just taken control of my life back.
yeah.
And I wanted to control every element of my life. And boy, did I try and control every element of my life.
Yeah.
To the point where until about 7 or 8 years ago, me and my husband still had separate bank accounts. I was like, nope, I will not give anybody control over that. So I was very controlled in everything that I did. And I couldn't control this.
No.
I couldn't control getting pregnant. I couldn't control staying pregnant. So it just felt like, well, yeah, I don't know what the right word is, but it felt like I was like this person who I was trying to be, I couldn't fully be. I couldn't fully be in control. And that then created a catalyst for me then spinning more out of control, because I was like, well, sod it. If I can't do these things and I can't have these things, I'll just do what I want when I want with who I want. And that's when I was probably the ugliest version of myself, because I just thought, fuck it.
You know why though? And you can say fuck it. I think that's because for somebody, because you're trying to make sense of something that you can't make sense of.
No. And nobody can tell you, and no answer.
No.
There was no, this is why you can't. This is why you can't conceive. It wasn't that I didn't have the right equipment and I wasn't producing, ovaries weren't producing eggs and things. That was all working. That was all functional. But it was like, lots of people say sometimes it's psychological.
Yeah.
And I don't understand the chemical thing. I'm reading The Body Keeps the Score at the minute, and that's really, really
Oh God,
interesting.
that's really interesting.
So, and I think a lot of it is a psychological thing. And also, I wasn't with my first husband, I wasn't with the right person.
No.
And I think the universe has ways of going, this isn't the way that your life should be.
I am that person who believes wholeheartedly that if you want it, it comes to you, and the power of the universe, all of that. I'm the dream board person. I'm the person, and I know that there's loads of people like me and you and my next guest who truly believe in that. But I think that if we just touch on the pregnancy part and having babies, there is a certain element, and some people are meant to have babies and some people aren't they? That's it. Some people are meant to have it easier and not easier. But I think that by not concentrating on it and doing exactly that and actually taking care of you, what's important is you and your body and giving you the nourishment, stopped you thinking about the very thing that was becoming obsessive. That must have been exhausting to be in your head, particularly with work, all of that, everything that's going on. I bet
your
you felt
emotions are like this.
Christ, I bet you felt like a hamster in a wheel.
Yeah. And I would be obsessive over, like, I'd look for the faintest line that didn't even exist. I'd see a line that wasn't on there and I'd be like, look, no, it's here. You can see it. And my husband's like, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So you almost convince yourself that you're pregnant, and then you crash because then you have a period. And then you struggle to pick yourself back up again. And then it's 3 weeks later, you just end up in a horrendous cycle of then also hating other people who were pregnant.
So here's what, I get it.
I had a friend who I didn't speak to for 6 months after she told me she was pregnant, because I was like, and I love her dearly. And it hit me because her and her husband were like, we're going to try. Within 6 weeks, they were pregnant. And I was like, how dare you?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I've tried for 8 years and
Yeah.
I can't. And you can flip a switch and be like, we're going to try for a baby. And I really struggled with it. And to be honest, our friendship has never been the same. I lost her as a friend
Yeah.
because I couldn't cope with my inability to get pregnant, which is awful.
So are you friends with her now?
It's
Yeah.
never been the same. Like I don't think I supported her enough in her pregnancy because I was feeling the way that I was feeling. So yeah, I think
See, jealousy is
that pregnancy never was a successful pregnancy either, you
right.
know,
Oh,
and
okay.
so she's had children afterwards, but that bond that we had just disappeared.
I remember being pregnant with my second daughter, and two of my best friends were pregnant at the same time. Both those pregnancies didn't go forward. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a tough
Yeah.
one. Um,
But I used to look at women in the street and just be jealous of them
I
because they
know
were pregnant.
jealousy is the right word in the right. It's the wrong word in the right word.
Yeah.
Because
You're envious of somebody
it's
having something
envious
you
of
want to
something that
have.
you want, and
Yeah.
you can't help that. But I think that I'd like to think I haven't got a jealous bone in my body, right? But I think that that's an impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible. But I try and it's envy is something that I haven't really got, and I try and always think really great things for them. But in terms of having a baby, that's a
Yeah.
human instinct
Yeah.
thing to feel. That
When you
upset
feel that your
about it.
body constantly fails you over and over and over again, because it wasn't just the ectopic, I've probably in my life had at least 12 to 13 miscarriages.
Wow.
So loss isn't the bit that I struggle with.
No.
It's the failure piece
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I struggle with. And it's not a failure. I've learned that as I've got older, you know, it's not, I can't control that. But at the time, I wanted and had to control it. And the fact that I couldn't meant that I felt like a failure.
You know, when she was born, did it go? Did the sense of failure go immediately?
Literally.
It's weird,
As
isn't
soon
it?
as I got to about 6 months, and it took me 6 months to believe I was going to have a baby
Yeah.
because I was always looking out for problems. I was that person in the maternity units going, I'm having this. Is this normal?
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yeah. I had very good reason. And that's why I didn't care. I was like, I'm looking after this baby in the best possible way that I can.
So you were
so
the
that
pain in the ass person.
I was.
Good for you.
Yeah. And, you know, I had steroid injections because she was going to be small and all that sort of stuff, you know. But I was like, give me everything you can give me to make sure that she arrives into this world safely.
Yeah.
And, you know, she is everything that we ever wanted. You know, they're great as sisters. They are the polar opposite of each other. Megan is introverted and quiet. Evelyn is feral, is probably the only way I can explain how she is. But I love that about her. I love her strong determination.
Yeah.
You know, my mother-in-law always says to me, she's been here before. She's just knowing it's like she's lived another life and she's here because she is just that kind of kid.
God, I got the goosebumps there.
Yeah. But
Okay.
she's been here before. She's very knowing.
I'm going to ask you a question now. So if strength no longer means carrying everyone alone, because I think you've gone full circle back to be the person that you are now, what does strength look like for you now then?
It means letting go of stuff that I can't control. So, you know, things like losing my job. If I lose my job, I've got that bit in my brain now that says, you'll find another one.
Because let's stop there, Seb, because you are immensely successful in your career.
In quite a short space of time.
You are, but you've gone because of the way that you are as a person, right? Which then goes back to everything I've said about you previously. But then something has flipped, something has changed within you. Do you know what that is? Do you know when that was? Something has changed.
I think it's to do with my husband. I think he's my leveler. So it took me a long time to allow me to let him do things for me.
Yeah.
To take on bits of my role that I feel I should do. So things like we did shared parental leave with Evelyn when she was born. We did a month in, month off each for like a year.
Yeah.
So we split that, which given how hard I fought to have her here in the world, people think it's bonkers that I was like, okay, but I'm happy to go dipping back into work and out of work. But that was the successful part of my
I was going to
brain.
say, see, I think that I can understand why you did that, because that's about, I'm still a person, and it's validity, isn't it? That you're
Yeah.
still there and you're relevant and you're.
I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mum.
No.
That was never what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a career. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to prove to myself first that I'm.
Of course.
I have no one to prove anything to.
Yeah.
Literally nobody. I've got nobody that I call and share my successes with from my family. You know, every job I've had, I've worked bloody hard to get it. Every misstep along the way, like redundancies, you know, I've just picked myself up, dusted myself off and gone, right, that's the next opportunity. But for me, it's my husband that has kind of,
So now you have got somebody to
yeah,
share that responsibility burden with, success with.
yeah. And his career has grown with mine,
Yeah.
slower pace, but
Yeah.
it has grown. And there's a parachute now.
Yeah.
And I think
That's quite a nice way to say that.
yeah, there's a parachute, there's safeguards, there's things that over years now that I've grown up and put these things in place around me.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was money in, money out, money in, money out, like spend, have the nice clothes, have the nice things. Now I question, I'm like, do I need to do that? Is
Yeah.
it better doing it this way? We communicate together. It's like last night talking about booking a holiday. I was like, let's just wait. Let's wait and see what happens in March and with your work stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm more sensible with it. Whereas before it was like, well, I've got all this money.
You never with a feral one, were you?
What was that?
I'm just thinking, you never were feral, were you? I'm thinking about the word you used about Evelyn.
Yeah.
She's got that spirit, and yes, she
yeah.
has.
You know, I would live paycheck to paycheck, you know, no matter how much I earned,
Yeah.
I would spend it.
Spend to the max.
Yeah. And I'd be like, well, it's payday tomorrow, thank God, you know.
So your husband is your saviour.
Yeah. He's my yin to my yang.
Yeah.
I'm like up here and like ambitious, confident. He's like brings you back down almost, of like, not in I could bring you down to earth
No,
way,
no.
but in a, are you really sure that you want to do that? Think about what you want to do rather than jumping into it. But then on the flip side of that, if he knows I'm determined and I want to do it, he will push me. And
do you think that have you got the ability now you've gone slightly older, because you're still a baby in my eyes?
I am, but I've lived quite a life. So
Yeah, I know you have. I know you have. You know, there's a 20-year, just under, between you and I. But, you know, do you now stop and have you got the ability to think and slow yourself down?
no,
I don't think you have yet.
I have not found a way of unwinding.
Yeah.
I like wine.
Yeah.
I like to drink wine, but I never switch off. Like I've tried various different ways of switching off. I've tried deleting apps from my phone. I just revert to the online version of the app.
Yeah.
You know, I take a day off from work to rest. I end up redecorating the office. There is no like off button. I have no off button until my head hits the pillow and I'm asleep, ever, because there's always something to be doing. So I'm always doing something, whether that's work with the kids, cleaning.
You may not find it, you know, because I
No.
think that there is definitely, we're very similar. And I think that for me, my day off was having a pair of jeans on and going in the office. I know that sounds mad, but it was.
But it's true. I've been on holiday on my sun lounger, and I don't even own the businesses that I'm
Yeah.
doing this for.
Yeah.
And I'm so invested in the businesses that I work for. And that's
Yeah.
why I love startup businesses.
Yeah.
Because I want to be part of it and I want to see the growth. And it's like a baby to me of seeing a business go from that.
But you may find that that's just within you. And I think people have said to me before, you need to take a rest, you need to do this. And I think, you're a long time dead. I'll rest when I can't. And I'm trying to think what my dad's saying is, I can't remember, something about getting up when you're dead, whatever. But I just think that you know, that might just be you as a person. And I think embrace it.
Yeah.
Because actually it's great fun. It's exhausting, but it's great fun.
But
But
it's like Kieran says to me, is like, you always act with such high urgency. Like you are
Good.
like I'm a high performer. And whenever I'm not fit, whenever
and
I
I'd
feel
just say,
like
Kieran's the person you work with.
yes.
Yeah.
But whenever I feel like I'm not doing enough. It's my own internal
Of course it is.
thing going. On the days where I'm only giving 50%, that's the same as other people's 100%.
Yeah, I get that.
And you're like me in that sense of like, oh, I feel like I had a really rubbish day, but actually I've done more today than 60, 70% of the working
tell you what,
population do.
Phew, I hope I'm around when you retire, because that's a huge level, if ever there is one, from experience. But you know, but it's I just embrace it now. I just think it's what it is. It's who I am. It's what it is, and you'll do the same. I did wonder, because I thought you're not there yet.
I'm not.
So
I don't know when I'll get there.
I'm going to end on this. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Um,
Is there anything else within your?
I don't think so. I think there's a lots of, I've attended lots of different podcasts, talked about lots of
I know
different
you have.
things,
I don't. Yeah.
lots of different topics about different, work and personal. But I think like the conversation we've just had is really important, because there aren't a lot of people that talk about, struggling to conceive,
No.
miscarriage.
And that's whether you're a man or a woman. 'cause
Yeah.
There's two sides to that. 'cause
Oh, and it
there's always
affected my husband deeply.
Bet it did.
Again, for him, he didn't have any children before he was with me.
Yeah.
And he's older than me, so it was almost like time was a ticking more for, well, not for
Yeah.
men really, is it? They've got a
No,
little
I
bit
know what you
longer
mean.
to, but he wanted to be a dad before he was 35.
Yeah.
And that was like a ticking thing we had to deal with,
Yeah.
just because that was the time frame he'd given. But I think it's really important that people talk about it. I don't think there's enough support in our industry for women or men going through IVF.
Yeah.
You don't ask for help with those types of things, because you're just like, oh, it's natural, my body
Do you
should
think
do
that's
it.
all industries? Because I do.
Yeah, I think it's all industry.
not
I think I
just
say
ours.
that because we're
We're
in
in
this
it.
industry.
Yeah.
But if you've got somebody who is pregnant, it's a high risk pregnancy, you don't have to give them special treatment, but know that they are probably struggling more than you think they are.
Yeah.
And they may not ever want or need your support, but actually just asking.
I think just asking would help,
Yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yeah. And I worked at the time in a little startup business, and I was quite lucky with them, they were quite flexible with me, but I wasn't flexible with myself. And that was the problem. So I think sometimes it's just giving yourself that breathing space, giving yourself that time to go and acknowledge, I can't do everything all at once, all the time.
Tell you what, Annalise, there's so much more to come with you. There is.
Yeah.
I can feel it. I can feel that there's so much more coming. I'm going to end with this, okay? If you stop being the one everyone depends on, who are you? There you go.
I don't know. I don't feel like I have a persona which is work Annalise and mum Annalise and wife Annalise. Very unfortunately, friend Annalise is also a very small part of that, because everything else is sort of pushed to the front of the
Yeah.
queue. I don't know what I'd do without all of that stuff around me. Like, I genuinely don't know. Like,
It's not a trick question,
I
because it's a very difficult one to answer, isn't it?
yeah, and it scares me, because at some point my kids are going to grow up. My eldest is 19 now, Evelyn's 8. So, like the years go by very quickly. What I want to see in my future is, I want to run my own business at some point in the future. I want to have a life that isn't tied to the UK.
Yeah.
I want to be able to live and move and travel, because I didn't get to do any of that growing up, because I was quite a young mum.
Yeah.
I want to do all of that with my husband. He is the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
And I just want to surround myself with experiences, because I've not had the opportunity to experience a lot of the things in life that I'd like to experience. So if I was to say, and I was on my own and I didn't have all of these things, I would probably travel and I'd see as much of the world as I possibly can. But in order to do that freedom, I would still need something to keep me going.
Of course. So if you were to describe yourself in, and I'll do the Nigel Riz the elephant thing right at the end. If you were describing you to me, how would you describe you now, this person now?
I would describe me as confident, resilient, open. I'm very open now.
Yeah.
I'm very transparent.
Yeah.
And determined. I think those would be the words that I would use.
I think that when I've got one word for you, apart from resilient, there's two words then. Transparent. I am shocked by your transparency.
Mm. When you spend years hiding,
Mm.
once you've finally had that first conversation, you've in the weirdest way, exposed who you
Yeah,
are.
yeah, yeah.
It's actually more easy to talk about everything else, because you're like, the worst part about me or my life already exists in the world.
Yeah,
There's nothing else that I can do or say
yeah,
that is going to, have any impact on how I feel about myself and who I am. Like, I love myself. I love my life that I've built, which I have absolutely built.
yeah.
And nobody's going to be able to tell me otherwise.
Amazing. So, animals. So, which animal? Shall I tell you what I think you are? Because I like to go
Go
first.
on then.
And then you can tell me whether I've got it right or wrong. Right. Sorry, I should have got this out earlier. The only problem is with mobile phones and making notes is that you have to remember your passwords, which I'm not very good at. Where is it? We'll have to cut this bit out where I'm fumbling around, because now I've got about 10 million messages coming in. Right, where are you? Right, let me go on to that part there.
Is it lion?
Right, so I think, based on Nigel Risner, because he was my first guest, right? A lion with strong elephant overlay, right? Lion traits: driven, outcome focused, measures success visibly, comfortable taking responsibility, natural breadwinner energy, carries pressure quietly, moves forward regardless of emotional costs. It's absolutely you.
Yeah, that
The
is.
elephant overlay: deep sense of duty, loyal to family, which sounds ridiculous,
But to my
but to
immediate.
your family,
Yeah.
you now, your
Yeah.
bit. Carries emotional responsibility, long memory of who depends on her, proactive provider. Elephants feel responsibility in their bones.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we know that the lion one is absolutely, even in like the color things, I'm a red.
Yeah,
I'm a red yellow, so I kind of have that overlay. There's like two sides of me, in whatever assessment you do of me, I'm a combination of both, because I outwardly display in one way, but internally I carry a lot more than what you
yeah.
see.
I think you're amazing. And all I can say is, Annalese, thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne.
Take care.